Though your education was science and engineering, looks like you had an itch to experience things outside of that,
Yeah.
to live in another country to begin with, learn the language, etc. And when and how did you decide to become a coach? Kind of leave your core, I would say, operating zone and step outside of it to become a coach.
Nearly all the ideas, if you really dig down, they
Mhm.
come from working with customers.
Right,
You don't go into a dark room and think this stuff up. And my aim has always been to take the basic ideas, simplify the hell out of them, because when you're in front of a customer, you haven't got time for a complicated model.
right.
And that was how it came together.
What has your key learning been from coaching various clients in different domains? Any patterns that you detect in situations you deal with? You talk about human emotion, for example. Do you
Yeah.
detect any patterns there? Hi, viewers. My name is Upesh Jain. Greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the host of the Exec Talk channel, a forum I started to talk to CEOs, executives, and other luminaries about their journeys and distill their experiences and learnings for our viewers' benefit. Today, we have the honor of talking with Andy Betts, a professional communications coach and trainer and founder of ICONDA Solutions. Based in Grenoble, France, their mission is to be the catalyst that allows you to strengthen communication, leadership, and problem-solving skills in high-stakes professional context. One of the many specialties Andy has is managing difficult conversations, a critical skill for leaders, managers, and teams in complex environments. His areas of expertise also include dealing with assertiveness, emotional management, professional posture, client communication, conflict management, presentation skills, and collaborative leadership. He has had the privilege of supporting top companies uh, like Deezer, Cadence, STMicroelectronics, and the French National Education Authority in transforming their communication practices. He's also the author of the book Something's Troubling Me, offering insights into turning complex conversations into constructive interactions. He's also applying cutting edge solutions like AI and training techniques perfectly adapted to remote learning to refine your communication skills. With a background that spans a PhD in analog IC design, university teaching, and senior leadership roles in global tech companies, Andy brings both technical and executive experience to his coaching. Born in the UK, he moved to France 30 years ago and lives in Grenoble, where his company is. Andy and I also worked at Magma Design Automation many years ago, and it's good to reconnect with him. Andy, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to my channel and let my viewers have a chance to get exposure to your life and your accomplishments.
Well, thanks, Upesh. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for reaching out, and it's great to see you after such a long time. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Andy, tell me about your early life. Where were you born? Who all were in your family? What kind of life did you lead at that time? What were the circumstances that you dealt with? It's a pretty loaded question. Feel free to answer it the way you want.
It takes us back a long way too, right? I was born in 1960. And I guess I was pretty lucky. I mean, I grew up in a caring family in the 60s, and then I was educated in the 70s, right? So in the 70s, education was free in the UK. University education was free. Not just the fees, but even the accommodation was free. And this was an opportunity, my father never had, and people my kids' age in the UK don't have anymore, right? They have big loans and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I was lucky with the education thing, and then my early career was in the 80s, and that definitely was an era of optimism and opportunity getting jobs if you had a decent tech degree was pretty simple then. So that was good. And just to give you an idea, the way I actually chose where I was going to go to university was I just took a tour with my best mate around the north of England, and we chose the university where we had most fun, right? And that
Mhm.
was the kind of atmosphere we grew up in. So that's kind of where I started.
Okay. And that university was Sheffield, right?
That was Sheffield, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. So, once you land at university, walk me through your early education, your foray into teaching and the corporate world. What are some of the key things you remember from that time, the inflection points that defined you? Any things of significance that you remember from that time period at all?
Yeah, I guess we'll just go back to kind of the end of the school period. At that time, you were really constrained to do either arts or sciences, right? So you were
Hmm.
pretty much channeled, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up actually doing both. So I
Hmm.
did maths, physics, geography, and Latin, right?
Oh,
And I
Latin.
did Latin because our Latin teacher was just such a good bloke. I mean, he was kind of built like a Roman soldier, and he had a really good sense of humor. So I stuck with him right up until nearly the end of school, where I was told I wasn't allowed, and I was told to do chemistry. But in the end, my kind of passion for languages and things, and getting around and seeing different countries, stayed with me.
Hmm.
And so after I'd worked in a few jobs and gone back to do a PhD, I jumped on the first opportunity to go abroad, and that was with STMicro in Grenoble.
Right.
So there, I got the chance to obviously refine the language and everything. And we had our first kid there as soon as we arrived, and we've been there ever since. So
Okay.
really, there's this desire to just get out there and try things in different environments were produced a couple of inflection points.
Okay. So, and then, once you moved to France, you did come back to the UK to do a PhD, though. Is that correct? Or
No, the other order. I actually did a PhD, then I became a tenured lecturer, professor in University College London.
I see. I see.
And it was from there that I jumped over to ST.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And there was no looking back. Um,
No, there's no looking back. No, I think it's kids tend to make you a little less mobile, and
mhm.
of course there was always a lot going on. The Grenoble area is a fantastic area to work, so there was always a lot going on. And I ended up working for a couple of American companies, like
Yes.
Um,
And it's located in a very nice geography too, location with the mountains in the backdrop and,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But if I swung the computer around and looked out the window, you'd see it because we're up in the mountains at the moment. In fact, it's
Oh,
holiday time.
nice. So, even though your education was science and engineering, looks like you had an itch to experience things outside of that,
Yeah.
to live in another country to begin with, learn the language, etc. And, so when and how did you decide to become a coach? Kind of leave your core, I would say, operating zone and step outside of it to become a coach.
Okay.
And who's your typical audience and the areas of specialization that I
Okay.
mentioned earlier? Yeah.
Well, it kind of happens like this. If I just go back to the reference point, we worked together at Magma, right?
Mhm.
So I was looking after field operations in Europe, and then Synopsys acquired us. And I didn't want to go to Synopsys, so I set up ICONDA Solutions, which is a consultancy, and ICONDA does EDA training,
Mhm.
and then consulting was added on because the training was all to do with field operations. But a friend of mine said, "Hey, Andy, you should do coaching." And this guy was actually he was a chief financial officer in
Mhm.
one of the chief financial officers in ST.
Mhm.
And he wasn't a coach or a trainer or anything, but he appreciated that coaching allows you to do a lot of different stuff.
Right.
If you've got those skills, you can, lead teams more easily and so on. And so I basically incorporated coaching into the training offer.
Hmm.
And it's been very helpful because actually that whole world has changed enormously, especially since COVID.
Yes,
Things have gone remote and so on, and everything now is online and recorded, and these things have radically changed the way training is done. And without the coaching component, I don't think, you can do adequate training these days. So
right.
that's the way it morphed.
I see. And you said you started by enhancing the performance of customer-facing teams, application
Yeah,
engineers.
yeah.
So, in what capacity or what manner um, did you do that, right? And I believe that took you all over the world. So, do you want to share some of your experiences there? And then, how did that lead to other areas of specialization?
Yeah, you're right. So what I did was from my own experience with applications engineering, and
Mhm.
working with different customers that I had. So I worked a lot with Xilinx, for example,
I
with
see.
ST, with Teledyne. Um, I built up a toolbox of stuff, and that was deployed in several companies. And the field engineering teams being all over the world, that allowed me to take this stuff and go to China, Japan, especially the States.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, that was interesting times. And nearly all the ideas, if you really dig down, they
Hmm.
come from working with customers.
Right,
You don't go into a dark room and think this stuff up. And my aim has always been to take the basic ideas, simplify the hell out of them, because when you're in front of a customer, you haven't got time for a complicated model.
right.
And that was how it came together. Hmm.
So, would it be accurate to say that any interaction, especially in engineering, is a mix of hard skills or engineering skills and soft skills as we know them? And this was to enhance the soft skill part of uh, kind of the interaction. Uh,
Yeah, that's correct. I think that's right. Yeah.
yeah.
Especially when you're facing customers, but even within a big
Mhm.
corporation, an R&D engineer has got a lot of internal customers too. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, what would you say is the easiest and the hardest part about coaching? Can you give me
Right.
examples?
Um, well, I really enjoy coaching, and for the easiest thing for me is just a coaching session. Once you
Mhm.
actually get into a coaching session and somebody says what they need and we work through it together, that I don't find too hard. The hardest thing is
Mhm.
persuading people to come into the session in the first place, right? It's the
Right.
sales and marketing of coaching that's really hard,
Hmm.
especially for people that feel very independent, they can do stuff, but they don't see how much better they could do things
Right.
if they took a slightly different perspective sometimes.
Yes.
Uh, uh,
Okay. So, you also, I believe, wrote a book, Something's Troubling Me. So, how
yeah.
did that come about, and what does it teach you, or what does it teach to people? Um, did you know you had an author in you?
Well, I've written three books actually now, only two of which were published, but they're still blooming difficult, so I'm not at all sure I've got an author in me. But that book came from um, a big company I was working with who wanted a course. They called me and said, "Look, we'd like a course in nonviolent communication, which is a well-known communication protocol."
Mm-hmm.
And what they wanted to do was basically start with a pilot and then deploy it across the corporation. And so I worked with half a dozen of their, well, it's a mix of human resources and engineering managers.
Mm-hmm.
And we put this all together. And as I got into the design of the course, I realized that nonviolent communication, as it's normally presented, wasn't really adequate. And it was too complicated and therefore too difficult to teach and difficult to learn. It takes a long time to learn NVC, nonviolent communication.
I see.
So the book is, in my view, a simpler way of of getting into the subject and becoming, more operational, better able to cope with candid conversations quickly. Yeah,
I see. And yeah, it takes a lot of discipline to kind of put your thoughts into words, into writing.
yeah,
And if you look at the entire span of your coaching part of the career, what has your key learning been from coaching various clients in different domains? Any patterns that you detect in situations you deal with? You talk about human emotion, for example. Do you
yeah.
detect any patterns there?
It was a good question. And certainly I learn an awful lot from the coaching sessions, and that's one of the motivations for keeping on doing it. Most weeks I put out a YouTube video and it goes out on LinkedIn
Hmm.
as well with something that's come out of a coaching session that could be of use to other people. So that's nice. And
Hmm.
like writing books and doing videos, as you well know,
Yeah,
y- because you've got to structure your arguments and
right.
say it,
Hmm.
it all comes together. It crystallizes the thoughts. Patterns. I guess the big pattern is that we all still act a bit like people did pre-Copernicus, where everybody used to think that the universe revolved around the Earth, right?
Right.
We still think like that way about ourselves. The whole world revolves around us.
Yes.
And so a coach is, one of his main things is to give people other perspectives, you
Hmm.
know, so that we're
Yeah.
not too much in the rut of our own thinking. And so
Yeah. So
that's one of the main things you can do. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, everybody has that element of human vanity and ego, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
of course, it's different levels of how pronounced it is, but um, how that manifests into work actions and other
Mm.
actions and interactions is probably what you're referring to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a really difficult thing to see and to get rid of,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it surfaces at the worst moments very often. Yeah.
So, thank you for sharing that, Andy. And now shifting gears a little bit, who is Andy outside of work? What things bring satisfaction to your core, for example?
All right. Well, it's a very good coaching question, right? Thank you very much for putting me on the spot there.
Mhm.
Um, Actually, a good friend recently described me as having attention deficit disorder. So, what she meant by that, I think, was I switch topics quite a lot. In actual fact, I do concentrate on topics. I get passionate about a particular subject for quite a long time. So, it's not exactly attention deficit disorder, but once I've kind of exhausted something, as far as I'm concerned, I've understood it well enough, I switch. So, I do go between a lot of different things.
I see.
Um, I read a lot.
Hmm.
And the other side of things, I do like exercising, getting out in the fresh air. And we're up
Hmm.
in the Alps at the moment, and we do that regularly. And but that's a lot of family life, two legs and four in the
Hmm.
family. So I enjoy being,
Yeah.
with the family. Yeah.
So, that's great. And, what advice would you have for my viewers or people in general? Based on everything you've done so far, especially the younger generation.
Okay. Well, one thing comes to mind is you reminded me of the book, right?
Hmm.
And something I very often bring up in coaching sessions is simply pause in many circumstances. So uh, just a nugget of advice. You can slow down and pause in the middle of a sentence, or you can slow down and pause mid-career, for example.
Right.
Very often, stop in the rush and just take in some breath,
Hmm.
standing back for things can help you enormously.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's as simple as that. Simple as that.
So,
Uh,
in other words, taking a pause makes you think and
yeah.
not just act recklessly, right? And
That's right. Yeah. And it's surprising how it also gives you a bit more posture. It gives you a bit more presence.
right.
People like to fill the space, in conversation. But in actual fact, if they just stop for a second,
Mhm.
other people tend to be impressed by that. It's not a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think especially in today's world where social media, AI, and there's so many distractions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we have to literally sift through all of that that's happening around us and prioritize what you really want to focus on doing. And I think your recommendation of taking a pause helps us do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, Andy, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to come to my channel and share your life history and your experiences. I appreciate the messages and the nuggets of information that you've shared. I really enjoyed my conversation with you and especially connecting back with you after a long time. And I really wish you well. Please stay in touch. And thanks for making time for me.
Well, thanks, Upesh. I've enjoyed it as well, and I'll follow your channel now that you've drawn my attention to it, and
Okay.
I've enjoyed what I've seen so far. So thanks very much.